Everyone, welcome to Lauren's Scraplot. My name is Lauren Urbonas, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Great North American Stamping Show, Season 5, Episode 8. I can't believe it. We are chugging along through this catalog, and I am so happy to congratulate Lisa on her win for her project last week. It was absolutely adorable. So if this is your first time with us, we are a group of 4 demonstrators: Jody Reinhardt, Julie Salva, Lisa Bowden, and myself, Lauren Urbonas. We show you a project every Thursday featuring a layout from the Stampin' Up annual catalog, but we have to modify it. So your job is to watch all 4 of our videos. You'll watch mine first, and then we will scroll through and watch the rest of the links in the description below. And then you get to comment on our cards, interact with us, but please leave a vote for whoever you think should take the cake for the win. So we all have little crowns that we get to wear when it's our week, and I'm happy to report that Lisa got to wear her crown this week, so we'll see what she's making. Now this week our challenge is from page 84. We were looking at the Extraordinary Flora bundle, and we had to choose one of these 3 cards to repurpose and recreate. Now for those of you who do watch my channel, both with the Great North American Stamping Show and my Tuesday videos, Show Me How It's Done, I have loved this Extraordinary Flora bundle, so I was a little sad when I couldn't just make a card with Extraordinary Flora, but I'll give you guys a little peek of some of the cards that I've done in the past, and you can go back through my inventory of videos and check them out. So here's a beautiful wedding card. This is the card I actually did this week on my Show Me How It's Done. It's a pop-up easel card. So you can find all these tutorials to watch. And then here's one more. So the tutorials are all free. Some of them, though, they are part of kits that I send out every month to people who place orders online via my store. So laurenurbonas.stampinup.net. And if you're in Canada, you get a free set of 3 cards with a $40 order. But we have a really great promotion coming up. Actually, it's already started. It's from July 23rd to 25th. Stampin' Up is offering free shipping. So for any order over $100 here in Canada, you'll be able to place an order and get that shipped to yourself for free. If you are in the States, of course, please click on one of the links from the other 3 ladies. They're all in the States, and you can shop with them as well. The free shipping is offered through them also. So make sure to get your wish lists in order because we have lots to show you. The Extraordinary Flora is what we were challenged with. Let's see what I've decided to play with instead. I'm going to use Kintsugi Inspirations. I have had a lot of requests for people to do cards with this suite, so I'm doing them at my August card club with some pieces of designer series paper, but this is the beautiful suite that I'm going to play with instead on page 58. So I'm flipping you back because I'll show you all the products in action in a second, but I've decided to recreate this little card up in the top with that Kintsugi Inspirations. And look how pretty it is. So I've got the flower feature in the back. I've got this stylish shaped circle here that we're kind of not using the whole circle for. We're cutting it off. And then a little bit of a feature on top of that. So follow along with me. I'll show you how easy it is to recreate this. And I have a couple tips for you on how you can make your vases and flower really pop. So the fun part about this paper is you can just cut the vases and these flowers from a piece of designer series paper. There's 2 of these in that package, but if you don't have the paper, or perhaps if you've run out of it, like I am quickly doing because I'm making a ton of cards, I'm going to show you how you can do some vases and flowers in just a minute here. So let me zoom you in. I'm going to get this catalog out of our way because I need to show you all of the fun details about this project. So give me a second. Zoom in. There we go. Here we go. Here's our project for the day. So it is a very, very fun and easy project in concept. You can easily grab whatever designer series paper you have on hand or stamp the background like the Extraordinary Flora did. Grab a circle or a shape of any sort, and then add any sort of detail that you have on top. My mind was going wild with all of the different sweets that I could use for this project. But let's move you to the side and get going with our pieces. So I'm using Misty Moonlight. That's kind of a color that shows up quite often in this suite. And I've cut a piece for myself at 4¼ by 11. And we're doing a half score mark here at 5½. So that will make a nice card that opens from the top, ready for us to create with. Now on the inside of our cards, we always like to have something to write on. So this is where we're going to grab a piece of basic white that will be 4 inches by 5¼ and we're going to throw that inside the card right now. So I've got a little tape because it's easy for me to use. Throw that inside the card, and you're going to notice I do have a strip of designer series paper here at the bottom, and that is because when I'm prepping all of my cards, I often end up with little pieces left over. And you know, we're all probably tempted to save them and think that we're going to make beautiful cards later with all of them. They most likely will end up piling up. So when you cut and prepped all of your pieces from this package, you can use these scraps to decorate the inside of your card. Now this one was 1/2 inch by 4 because that's what I had left. This one here is going to be 3½ by 4 because that's what I had left. Again, no right or wrong. You can even have 1 inch. Any of those pieces are going to look beautiful and just add a little bit of character to your inside. And it's completely optional. If you don't have scraps, don't cut them. Just wait. I'm sure you will in the future. Okay, back to the front of our card. Here we go. See, this is how easy this is. You're gonna get a piece of designer paper. This designer series paper is stunning. All of the pieces have a gold accent side, and then of course a more kind of flat toned pattern on the opposite, but you can get so many options out of these papers. So 4 by 5¼ for this guy again, and we're going to put that flat on our card front. If you get stuck at any point, you don't remember my measurements, I have listed all of them in the comments, or in the description, I should say. So just make sure that along with the video links for the other 4 ladies, you just save all of these measurements so you can replicate this anytime. There we go, tiny little border all the way around. And now we're ready to start building. Okay, so the first thing that we need is some sort of decal. I use the Stylish Shapes dies like they're going out of business, and I really hope they never do because they're perfect. So I've cut a piece of the designer series paper actually using my Stylish Shape circle. This is the largest of the set, and then you can see, because I've compared it to this white one, I actually cut a little bit off of it just to line it up with my flat edge and give it a little bit of character. Now I forgot, I shouldn't have done that ahead of time, but here's a really easy way to do it. You're going to grab your card base, you're going to just overlap that by a tiny little bit. There's no perfect rhyme or reason. You're just kind of eyeballing how much do I want to lose, and then I look at the front and I snip. Okay, if you're very, very particular, you can use your trimmer, but the edge of your card will also cut that piece perfectly straight for you. So I have that one already cut and prepped. I'm popping this guy up on dimensionals to give myself a little bit of a base now for my project. It starts to draw your eye away from the different golds because you don't want them mixing together. Make this base nice and sturdy because you are going to build quite a bit on top of it. And so far, every single piece that I've used, you can substitute in for anything else you own. All right, But here's where we're going to start adding some of those details where you are going to need the Inspiring Imperfections stamp set. So there's great sentiments in here. I thought the You Inspire Me is going to be the most versatile, but of course, if this is for somebody very specific, some of these notes may fit perfectly with why you're giving the card to them as well. So I'm going to mount on blocks You Inspire Me, this vase, and my flower. Of course, you can use any of the other pieces too, but those are the three that I'm grabbing. And I need to reach inside here and do some die cutting as well. So I'll need this frame. I'll need this one. And I'm going to use these two pieces in gold, just to add a little bit of accent to my project. So let's start with our vase. Okay, I have one pre-cut, but I want to show you how I did that. So you'll notice on this vase, there is both stamping and the gold embossing. So that's why I grabbed this piece of Designer Series paper. I grabbed my Misty Moonlight ink, and I'm going to stamp a vase straight on the Designer Series paper so that I have that embossed look. If you don't have this paper, you can grab a piece of Misty Moonlight. You can stamp and emboss these two stamps here with all of the detail, and then you'll have the same effect. But I can cheat because I've got the paper, and I'm just gonna stamp this right on top of that paper. Just one little note, when you are stamping on top of anything that is embossed like this on your paper, the ink will not stick. So you're going to end up having it rub off on the gold sections. And that to me is perfectly fine. I think it adds character. But if you're worried about getting that ink all over your finger, then go ahead and just grab a Kleenex to wipe it off at the moment. Okay, so that's how I got this vase. This one's pre-cut just so I don't have to make you dizzy by bringing my cut and emboss machine up here. But I'm just cutting that out with the frame die. Moving on to the flower here. Okay, so we've noticed, yes, lots of beautiful flowers in this sheet that are easy. So I'm just replicating the look of those flowers, but unfortunately I'm running out, so we have to improvise. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab a piece of basic white cardstock. You're going to grab your petal pink ink and one of your Stampin' Right markers. This one is Lost Lagoon for me, okay? Because I wanted to match the color scheme that the paper had. Of course, you can do different color schemes as well. So with your petal pink, what you're going to do is you're going to ink up the very top of that flower. And then we're going to be coloring on the rest of the stamp with your marker. So we're not using two ink pads, we're using a marker to finish this. And then because it's a Stampin' Right marker, we do need to give it a little breath. So you just huff on it, kind of adds your breath moisture, and then hold this in place just for a couple seconds longer than usual. I usually count to 5 just because the ink from the marker does take a little bit longer. And voila! See how easy that is? I have to close my inks up so I don't get finger in them. And then of course, just using that same die cut, I have a flower that looks exactly like the designer paper, and nobody knows that I didn't use the Designer Series paper for it. So fun. And then I mentioned earlier, I used that gold accent piece. I'm just going to use the one large one here. Oh, you're falling out. There we go. Got that large piece. If you were so inclined, you could also cut out the smaller piece as well. But I'm just using the large one on this card. Before I start mounting everything, let's do our sentiment. So because I'm using You Inspire Me, I just cut myself a little piece of paper that's 3/4 of an inch by 1 inch. If you're using one of the larger sentiments, you'll want to adjust this size. Okay, so You Inspire Me using the Misty Moonlight ink, and that should go right in the center of this space. Poke it down. There we go. And we're ready to start So the first thing that we're going to need to put on here is that gold. It's going right across this background section, so we want to make sure that it's in place. The easiest way to do that is just to grab a tiny bit of glue and put it in the center of the image. You don't need to do anything on these edges here, just in this center part. Put a little bit on those large flowers. It's going flat in the background, and I'm just making sure it's staying inside the perimeters of my circle. Of course, you can bring it outside if that is your preference. Okay, it doesn't need a lot of time to dry because we're going to put a vase right on top of it. So with your large vase, you're going to put some dimensionals on the back. Just put a couple in the middle section, that's more than enough. And this vase is going to go a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom of your project, so don't be alarmed. Glue, I'm just going to move you a little bit. I want to showcase that a bit. The nice thing with the glue, it's not fully dried, so you can move it. Oh, that's why I have it the other way in. Sample, and I think I like it better. Just how it flows. There we go. You can play with these. Here's your vase. Okay, the next thing that we need to add is a flower, and that flower is going to be using one dimensional as well. Sorry, it's tilted. It's bothering me. There we go. The one dimensional just in the back of that flower, and we're tucking that in behind our little vase here. The last thing you need is your sentiment. So I'm just going to put my dimensional right on top of the circle already, because then I know it's perfectly in place. You inspire me. And then I wanted to finish this off with a few gems because, of course, the card in the catalog has some gems. So these are the pressed motif embellishments, and they are very, very sturdy. So don't be afraid to use your take your pick tool just to pick them up and add a little bit of detail to your project with them. Oops, you're flying away. Come here. They're very heavy though. And there is your card. See? So fun, so easy. And hopefully you really enjoy it. So please, even if you're not voting for my card, leave a comment. I'd love to hear where you're watching from, or if you've tried using this designer series paper, anything. I just am happy to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and please join us again next week for another edition of the Great North American Stampin' Show. Bye guys.